So now we're going to talk about delving deeper into our research. So we now have read our work. We have read our little background about either our relevant culture, our historical period, or mythological figures. And now we want to go even deeper and find some research articles. So the first part that we have listed are literary criticisms. Now, I listed this one first because it's only been around 5 years, and this will immediately lead you to some very quick information. So in a way, we already came across these two things and when I went over overviews, but I listed that first because when you get into Gale literature, because this novel has only been around for 5 years, there aren't that much criticisms as of yet. So at first glance, oh yeah, there's 42, but you notice some of these are book reviews. And unless the book review is extensive, I mean, I guess 889 and 920 words is not bad, but usually you're looking for a research article. So they usually will be, say, usually they will be like over 1,000 words rather than less than 1,000 words. And I can already see, for example, most of the stuff listed here are very brief articles and book reviews, even though they're under literature criticism, because there's not that much there as of yet. And so in almost all cases, you're going to be finding historical and background material elsewhere, which is why I made a big deal that it would be easier to go through novels for students in that introduction to get a lot of that historical and cultural background materials. Although a lot of it is already in the book, of course, and a lot of that you gain from your instructor. Largest one for literary criticisms is the Articles Plus, which also includes Humanities International Complete. So I'm going to actually do a search here on, let's first do Mackenzie Cloth. So we enter that as our search term. And so it first finds, items that are talking about candy cloth. But you notice here we have candy cloth motifs from the African arts, or the kente cloth of Ghana and African arts, better yet. So we can click here for full text finder. And it's letting us know that it finds this article in full text from JSTOR. So this is an example where you will need to make sure that your class webpin is working for you to find databases, because that's the only way you're eventually going to get across this article. And here we have our article on Kente Cloth of Ghana. We click to download our PDF. And so this article is now available. Now, with JSTOR's case, they don't have an email function like most databases. So you want to make sure you download it and maybe email the PDF to yourself as an attachment. So you make sure that you don't lose that article, because it's very easy to lose sight depending on where you're going. So we definitely have some very good possibilities here with this type of search. Sometimes our search may be of different types. For example, Gender Watch is where you want to go to find maybe mother and daughter's relationships, maybe in Ghana. So I'm going to enter mothers and daughters. And then I'm going to add a row, and here is a little hint. Because of differences in spelling, I'm going to say Ashanti or Orasanti. That's my third term. And then we'll click on search. education region to dropout rates, Ghana, that's probably current. We might have to focus on something historical, which actually means we might want to select a historical database itself or enter a time period if we're looking for a different time period. But you see how that works. And then eventually you come across an article you might want to use. If you want to make sure that it is a journal article, since I realize this is a newspaper article, we can limit our search to source type of scholarly journals, or we can select peer reviewed above. And then we're only looking at the scholarly journals. Women in Ties, informal social networks among women in cross-border training in Accra, Ghana. They give me a house to gather MD children, mothers and daughters in the Spiritual Baptist Church. So, I mean, there are lots of possibilities that would go around here. Some of them that may be more relevant than others, and you'll probably have to come across with maybe some different search terms. But you basically see how that works. History databases. For a lot of you, I suspect this is a good place where you want to go. So let's say Ghana and slave trade. As you can see, we have a lot here. So we already have enough that we can limit our search. Ooh, the Fonte Shrine of Nanamapao and Atlantic slave trade in southern Ghana. That may be worth taking a look at. So, as nice as it is to go ahead and begin reading, I'm going to go back for a second and point out to you the abstract. This is going to be your biggest time saver because this is a brief summary of what the article is about. If sometimes it will say author supplied to let you know it came from the author themselves, but in a lot of cases, it's coming from the indexer and abstractor who actually read through that article and provided this summary. So rather than finding out on page 11, oh, this is nothing that I wanted to find for, you have this, as well as these subject headings. And it's time to copy and paste or take out a piece of paper and jot some of these down because you might want to use some of these official subject terms in your future searches. So for example, Fonte African people, I especially want to find that. So I'm now going to say Fonte African people. It's an additional search term. And that brought our search results down to 13. So definitely more than enough depending on what we want to write about and definitely worth exploring. So definitely a good place to go. And you notice that variants in different titles, but yet as far as subject heading is concerned, it's with an I. So important to keep that in mind. So likewise in other places that you can go to. If you go into Articles Plus or the diversity in databases, the important thing you need to remember is that you want to log in, not be a guest. And so, you would then, if you're logging in for the first time, enter your WID number and password. It's still in your memory, you come directly to here. This will probably lead us to a little bit more, although I don't think it includes the historical database, so I won't include those. And slavery and its legacy in Ghana and the diaspora. I hadn't come across that yet, which is why it's not listed as a resource, but definitely that may be something worth exploring if this is our topic here on the slave trade. So there is a lot to go in terms of your discovery. Okay, so one more thing that I probably am going to talk about. Let's go back to this. Well, let's not be in an ebook. Let's be in an article here. So let's say that, of course, some of these, if you're searching in some of these, sometimes full text is not available. So this is an important part. We want to make sure a full text limiter is checked. So there's actually 6 here in full text. Let's say that we were interested in this article. They're either ebooks or, I'm frustrated. Okay, let me go back to the history databases. There's a reason why I'm doing this, because I'm then going somewhere else. And yeah. Let's go back to our Kente cloth. No, we're not. That's also lead us elsewhere. But okay, let's say we were interested in this article here. So this is available. So we want to make sure that we email it to ourselves. So going to, I always give it a subject line because it might end up in your spam folder. It's a way for you to easily find and know it's from you. Make sure your full text options are checked. Now, citation format, it is set by default to MLA 8. You should always, however, double check your citations. But here's a nice thing when you email these articles, is that it includes a citation format. You can also copy and paste later. And so that's why I recommend emailing as much as you can to yourselves. If you want to take a look at how it's being cited, on the right side here, sometimes it's a word, sometimes it's just an icon. You look for the one that's in paper, which means cite. And what comes up here are all these common citation formats. Now, the APA listed up here, unless they change things in the 7th edition, because the 7th edition just came out. Maybe they changed it since then, but at least I know the 6th edition, you don't have a lot of your words capitalized, so this may be wrong. So that's why don't rely on citation generators, also have yours on the side. And in this case, okay, we have our name of our author here, we have our name of our article, we have our name of our source in italics, volume number, issue number. Okay, it looks pretty correct. Using the name of EBSCOhost is now acceptable. That wasn't in 7th edition. You had to state the specific database. It's like, oh my God, what database am I in? You may occasionally have an instructor that would rather tell you what database it is. So I will show you that in a moment if that's what Instructor Higgins requires. At the end is this. So you either have listed either a long web address like the one down below, that can also show up for MLA, or what is called a DOI number. This is basically how to get to this article. DOI is preferable because it doesn't matter what database you got it from. A number has been assigned, that's the document object identifier, that will lead you to this. So if you did a Google search or was available for free, that would be enough, that DOI number. That's an important part in citations these days. It's not simply just stating the database, but either the DOI number or the web address it came from. Now, here's the thing. This on top, in most databases, I think JSTOR is probably really the only exception. That is not a functional web address that's going to get you back to this article. Instead, you need to find what is called the permalink. And so this chain link on the right brings that up. And there is your permalink if you need to use that for your citation. So that's it for our databases section. This is also the area where I expect the most questions. And I'm going to provide as an epilogue some quick things on how to do certain functions again, because I know you're going to ask, and this may seem too long to you. But this was basically about selecting the database and experience of searching it. And some of these are going to be a little bit more out there than the ones I showed. So I do need to warn you of that ahead of time. So that's it for this section. Next section, we'll talk a little bit about footnote chasing. And then that's pretty much going to be it. You probably heard from me enough, and these sections have gone longer than I ever anticipated since I'm doing this for the first time this way. So please bear your patience with me. And one more section, and then you should theoretically be good to go. And then you can look at some of our quick guides if you need further help.